he would bring home the blueprints and roll them out on the table. And I would just pore over them. And I just found it fascinating. And he said, well, the architect disappointed us tonight. And because they brought the bids in. And he says, and they didn't do this and they didn't do that. And I says, well, why didn't they just turn it this way and turn it that way? And he looked at me and he says, maybe we should just hire you, Joanie. Anyway, that whole idea, and I could look at those blueprints and see 3 dimensions.
Wow.
Eleanor read this for us, but we're going to dare to read it again. Bones on the floor of the valley, bones that were very dry, and he asked me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I said, Sovereign Lord, you alone know.
Can we pray?
Oh, sure. You want me to pray? Sure.
Heathens, we've never prayed.
It's always good to pray. Dear Lord, we just thank you for this time together, and thank you for Joanie's willingness to be on this podcast. And we do pray that you would just, that there would just be fruit from this podcast, that people would feel more connected to others and just have an interest in getting to know each other better here at church, and that it would just help to strengthen your body. Amen.
Amen. You know, you agreed so easily. Usually people have so many questions about, like, what is this for? What are you doing? What are the questions?
You had given me, a background to David, but you'd also, I remember you saying at the beginning of the year or something.
Yeah, earlier on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you had an idea.
I had an idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you said you watched parts of some of them.
A few.
You know, you knew it wasn't too scary.
No, not with you. But I did know about Nathan.
I'm a wild card.
Yeah, you're a wild. I like that wild card. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming to do this with us. One of the questions that we like to start with is, what is your favorite color, and what does that say about you as a person?
It's usually pink is what I have on, but I wore my pink the other day.
Okay.
Well, yesterday, in fact, to see someone at the hospital, my uncle. But the reason why I like pink is because I just feel like I'm glowing better, or the fact that pink is part of the sunrise and the sunset. And, pink is like a smile to me. So.
And you like being smiley.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I feel like Pauline would describe pink that way as well.
Really?
Every time she sees anything pink, she goes, "Oh my goodness, it's so beautiful."
Yeah.
And I think to myself, but
Yeah.
every time anything that's pink,
Yeah.
she gets very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is kind of funny because a lot of times, like, people come in here and we ask them that question and they are actually wearing their favorite color, but I guess you were wearing your favorite color the other day, so.
You were wearing it yesterday.
I wore it yesterday, to the hospital to see my uncle. So I knew that would brighten the day for him.
So the other question that we like to ask everybody is, what is your earliest memory?
My earliest memory was, I think this is pretty young, but I remember in my parents' first home that they built, we were in bunk beds, and I was on the top, my sister was on the bottom, and there was a crib with my sister. We were like 3.5, 4 years apart, we were all in one room. And just remember that we were cozy there with that's the first real memory. And also in that room, I remember when I was 4 years old, my aunt and uncle, the uncle I visited yesterday in the hospital, they announced their engagement and they gave me my first purse.
Oh.
And said that I would be their flower girl.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that's a real vivid memory for me.
So how old do you think you were?
I was 4.5.
4.5.
Yeah, they were married when I was
Mm-hmm.
a little older, of course, but they announced their engagement.
So did you? You said you had 2 other sisters. Do you have any other siblings?
Yes, I have 3 sisters, and then the youngest is a brother.
Okay.
So I'm the oldest
You're the
of
oldest.
5, and we're all J's.
Oh, really? I didn't know
And-
that.
Yep. And we started calling ourselves the 5 J's a number of years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, signing cards to mom and dad, we'd say 5 J's, or sending flowers to mom or something. We'd always use 5 J's.
So were your parents Jays too, or
No. The story behind the J's is that my grandfather was Otto. There was Ottos on both sides of the family.
Mm.
And if I had been a boy, I probably would have been Otto the Third or something like that, you know. But I wasn't, so they named me Joanie. Consequently, all the girls came along. But when my brother come along, they decided to stick with the J's and called him John Otto.
John.
John Otto, yeah.
So what are all the other Jays then?
Joanie, Judy, Janet, Jennifer, and John.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why didn't you guys do 5 J's when you signed cards?
I don't know. It
Think
never
of
occurred
that.
to us. Yeah, because we
Yeah.
have Jessica, Joelle,
Yeah.
Jenna,
I know.
Joseph, Josh.
And then you just carried it on with the
Yeah,
in-laws,
they-
but we didn't do that.
Yeah. So no in-laws that have a J.
Just David John.
Okay.
Yeah. And David came home with me the spring of my freshman year. They'd heard about him in my letters and that. And he automatically became the big brother. And he still is today. And my brother was 9 at that time. And so they have a very close relationship.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, where did you grow up?
Leclaire, Iowa, which is on the Mississippi River, north of Bettendorf and Davenport. And my mom's parents grew up in that area. My dad was in that area too. A lot of ancestors that go back to when they came over from Germany.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So Scott County is a very typical place where people crossed the river at that time because it was above the lock and dam, the rapids, and so that's why the lock and dam is there. But Scott County has a very high percentage of immigrants coming, and that's where they crossed into Iowa. And then they'd stay in Homestead maybe for a couple years before they went on west.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Some of them stuck around.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, David's ancestor, we traced that his ancestors crossed in Scott County and lived
Oh,
in Scott
really?
County for a while too.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very common.
How do you trace something like that?
Through the land
Okay.
things, and there's the museum. There's several museums. My dad was the curator and president and curator of the Buffalo Bill Museum in Leclaire.
Oh, wow.
For 35 years. I more or less breathe it. And then I could get into all that too, but yeah. So the history of our town and that Scott County is very, very part of me.
So what was in the Buffalo Bill Museum?
Well, Leclaire was known as because it was above the rapids, that's where many of the steamboat captains built their houses. And to shoot the rapids, there was only a certain number of men that could handle those rapids. So the river lore is very important. Plus, Buffalo Bill Cody was born.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's where he was born, and his family lived out near the area where some of my family was, and then they went on further west. But yeah, I could go on and on.
That sounds really interesting.
It does.
Yeah, and then The home church that I grew up in was founded in 1841. And I could tell you all about that history.
What denomination was that?
That was a Presbyterian church. But there's several others, but that pretty much dates back to when that area was settled. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's not that it was always Presbyterian ministers. It's who would be in the area.
Wow.
So I just dropped all that history that my mom had. I just dropped it off at the church. It was amazing. So.
Yeah, that's a lot different than like New Life, where like our history. I mean, hopefully one day we have that long of history.
But it just goes to show it's not just that particular denomination or church, but how strong and vital a church body can be, and how important it is to a community whenever it begins. You know, it's a matter of the longevity of the faith of those people from generation to generation to generation. And all of the people that make up this church, they have, you know, a legacy that came before them, whether they were actually Christians, but it brought them to this point. That's what's so interesting.
And so your mom had a bunch of records of this that...
She was a historian, too. Yeah, she was the keeper of a lot of history. And it's taken me 5 months to go through all of her stuff.
All. Oh, wow.
I'm still not quite done, but I'm getting there.
She had recently passed, right?
Yes, in March.
Yeah, in March. Okay.
So I have genealogies from all the different family links, and all in banker boxes. I've got it all separated.
Of your personal family? Or okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So growing up, was your family Christian then?
My mom and dad, I just recently found Dad's little Bible in 1947. He gave his life to Christ.
Wow.
And and my mom and her sister walked to church since they were like 4 or 5 years old, and she didn't like hanging on to her big sister's hand, you know, walking. But they had gone to this church, and I think it was probably Mom that brought my dad to church. And yet my dad's family was more German Lutheran, but the church they belonged to was quite a ways into Davenport, you know, so they... but the point was that I did find the Bible that Dad wrote in. And then they became members of that church before they were married, and they got married in 1952.
Wow.
And very active in the church the whole time. I'm very, very fortunate.
Yeah.
Very fortunate to have had so many mentors and just amazing people, missionaries that come. Yeah. Just, and my dad growing, he wasn't perfect, and he would tell you he wasn't perfect, but he grew in his faith, especially with one particular pastor that challenged him. And I saw that relationship bloom even as I grew up. And I got to speak at that pastor's eulogy.
Oh, yeah.
A year and a half ago. He died at 92 years old. And how much of an impact he made on my dad, but also made on me, his faith, because he challenged us. And I don't know, I just...
How did he do that? How did he challenge you?
Questions. Questions to make you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to make you think. And then dig in your Bible. So.
That's wonderful to have been raised by two God-fearing people, though, that are committed to growing in their faith.
Yeah. My aunt and uncle were the same way. And in fact, my aunt died 12 days before my mom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They were very, very, very different. And yeah. We're not surprised. We're not well. Big sister went, it's my turn.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what was it like growing up in your household with your three sisters and brothers?
Oh, very busy because Dad was the 9th of 10 kids, but the first one to have a high school diploma because he was determined. But my grandfather at that point was having 8 kids through. He said, "You don't need a high school diploma," but Dad was adamant, and so he went to work on another uncle's farm that would allow him to buy a car and drive to high school.
Wow.
Because he had a younger brother, and that's the uncle I visited yesterday, 5 years younger. And because he was looking out for him, and he said he needs a high school education as well. And so education was very important to my dad because he saw the struggle of his older siblings, and he knew he needed to do that. So he then got on as a journeyman, an apprentice at Iowa, Illinois Electric for his first job. And so it was busy in our household because my dad worked hard and being service to other people. I mean, he was a great mentor, and my mom, she was really the same way. They built their first house when they were 18 and 20 years old.
Really?
Wow.
Right, their first year after marriage. And his mom died, leaving my uncle only 15 years old. So my mom took care of my grandpa and my uncle,
Wow.
plus me. Then I was born.
Yeah.
It was just, so it's just, they did what they had to do. And my mom's uncle, another uncle on the other side of the family, owned a general supply, Hassler General Supply. And Dad needed to earn more money, so he'd leave Iowa Illinois Electric, and he'd come and he'd work part-time. And then he bought half into the business. And then my uncle passed away suddenly with a heart attack. So Dad and Mom bought that half of the business out.
Wow.
So there we were. We owned a hardware and appliance store.
That's amazing. That's a lot to have going on.
And he was part of the school board because I was in school. I mean, he just wanted to serve well people. He was a people person.
And so did they invite you kids into that with them then, like serving alongside them?
Oh, yeah. Because at 10, I had to learn how to make change. And by 12, I was making out the deposits for the bank.
Wow.
And we had to do inventory. But that was the expectation. The expectations that were placed on us, we didn't know any different.
Yeah.
And so serving the customer's always right. And you do what you have to do to,
So
Yeah.
from that, do you feel like you developed a love of service and generosity just because it became part of who you are? Or
right. And we had to share our dad. And, for my mom, she, with 5 kids, it was sort of crazy at times.
Yeah.
But no, totally supported and participated at church all the time. And, I mean, we did what was expected, but it was fun at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had fun, and the extended family, with my dad being 9 of 10, there were 45 cousins on that side. And we would get together, you know, for reunions, but Christmas, and, you know, once a month at least, we'd say, okay, we're going to go sledding at this house, you know. So there was never a dull moment.
Yeah.
And never a time that I ever said I was bored.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was plenty to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you feel like, because I think a lot of people in that situation could become resentful, like all this busyness, all these expectations. How do you feel like you kept from feeling that way and instead felt like it was fun?
And sharing your dad.
I think it was because of their faith, the faith that we, you know, every day was God's day, and the fact that we did what we knew was right, and faith in trusting one another, all of those type of attributes that Jesus Christ shows is what we were being modeled and therefore expected. And you did your very best in school, because
Well, and you probably didn't grow resentful because they're doing it out of love. Like, if you can tell the heart that somebody's doing something with, and then that will inform how you should feel about it.
that's true.
When you're
That's
doing
true.
it.
Yes. Now, my grandmother, my mom's mother, very, very low-key lady, because my grandfather worked on the lock and dam. He was tied to the that was part of the Corps of Engineers. So his sleep schedule was he worked at night.
Yeah.
But she was a lady that watched her words, and when she had something to say, you listened. And she was a teacher. She was a trained teacher, a one-room school teacher, and we respected her dearly. She taught us piano. She was our mom away from mom, because mom and dad built the house across the orchard. They bought some of the land from my grandparents, so I had grandma all the time. So I had that, as well as my other grandfather out on the farm, and yeah, family around.
Yeah, I feel like that sense of community must have contributed too to the just it being fun to serve and be busy.
Yeah.
It's like we're doing all this stuff, but we're doing it together.
Yeah, and scouts, we were in scouts. Back then, scouts was tied a lot to doing your duty to God and country, you know? And so the scout leaders were from church, you know? My brother was an Eagle Scout, but that was all tied with church. It was church. So having a Christ-centered relationship, you know, that was our example, you might say.
Yeah.
Things hinged around the church.
So when do you feel like you personally, like as a child, what was your idea of who God was?
Well, I remember specifically when I was 10 years old, we had just moved from the house mom and dad built to another house, a little bit bigger house. And I remember like doing a pirouette in between the dining hutch and a closet. And what I remember is that God said, I'm going to send you on a mission. Now, I don't know if it's because we had just had missionaries that week, and I was so caught up in their adventures, you know. But I realized that my world is bigger than right here. That God's world is bigger, and that who knows what he's preparing us for. Who knows what he was preparing me for. So I remember starting in junior high, I could not get enough reading of missionaries. Now, David Livingstone, you know, the old time Amy Carmichael, all those, I read all those biographies all through junior high and high school. Besides, I did a lot of reading, but that fascinated me.
Do you feel like God did end up sending you on that big mission?
It's constant. It is constant. You know, you come away, you think missionary, and you're going to the jungle. I'm reading another missionary book right now. But no, your mission is right where God plants you.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's so true. You do think it
has to be
far from home.
I know, it has to be.
Some big thing.
Yeah, but it's just right where he plants you.
Yeah, one thing I was picking up on, like, with how you're growing up and all the things that you're doing, it sounds like you guys had responsibilities, but it wasn't like an optional responsibility. It sounded like a thing that was just a thing you do. There's just not a choice. And so then it does become fun because it's like human nature. Like, you serve, like you breathe and you eat and you live. And there just seems to be a difference from what that is now to what responsibilities feel like today.
Yeah, I think you're right. That was just what was, I use the word expected, but that was the rhythm of life then. I mean, in June, the strawberries come, and then the raspberries, and then when you got done picking early in the morning, then you went down to the store. I mean, through the summer, you know, did Dad need help at the store? Okay, he'll be up to get one of us. Or, you know, it was just, we worked with my grandpa in his orchard, and what needed to be picked through the summer. It was just, I didn't know any different.
There's this quote that's, I'm going to butcher it, but it's, I know what I ought to do. I am capable of doing what I ought to do, what is right, like righteousness in that regard. And I will do what I ought to do. And that kind of sounds like that. It's, you know what you should do. God has created you to do what you should do. Your responsibilities in being righteousness and in serving people. And you will always do the right thing. Whereas now life can feel complicated when there feels to be lots of other options other than that. But there really isn't. Lots of other options. There's just the righteous thing that you should do. And you are capable of doing it. And it doesn't always feel so simple. Maybe it's because there's just a lot going on in our world today that things aren't as simple as, you know, this is the rhythm of life. This is how you live.
Yes. Yeah. There's too many options.
I really like that word rhythm because I feel like it's hard to have rhythm in life. But like what you were saying about like the strawberries are ripening, so we have to go do that. And like I know how that is when produce ripens, it's not like you can just let it sit till next week.
Right. It has to be done.
But like we don't. At least it can feel like we don't have a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
In you know, modern society. I'm not saying that wasn't modern society. It wasn't
it's the last century.
But it can definitely feel very different when, like, most timing of things is fairly contrived. Like, it's just the way it is because someone decided it was going to be that way. Not because, like, the strawberries are ripening or something like that.
Right. See, children, or as you're growing up, you can reason with that. Oh, it's the season. We had to do that. Or it's August going into September, we're getting ready for school, but it's inventory time, so we had to count every nut and bolt in this 100-foot long store, 4,000 square feet of stuff. But you do it because that has to be done.
There's a peacefulness of like having a cadence to life. Like even living in Whittier, when you're driving the 5 minutes to get to it, you know, when they're planting the corn and when the corn is growing, when there's harvesting, you hear the machinery, just the sounds around us kind of lets us, it invokes a certain feeling of what's supposed to be going on because of everything that's going on. And I've now, when September and October come, I'm thinking you have to have a cat because then the mice will be coming from the field.
Exactly.
Because they're harvesting now. So there's a certain cadence to things, even just a little bit outside of town. So it must be like the modernization of the world that takes away, you know, that.
Yeah, when everything's on demand. Mm-hmm. And you just have your daily routine, but it's not like I mean, we do kind of... I appreciate living in Iowa because we have all 4 seasons.
Yes.
So, like, we do experience that. So I really appreciate that. But, like, yeah, it can just seem like the day-to-day.
Yeah.
I mean, we can always say now is better or yesterday was better. But
always then was better.
Yeah.
We all have a purpose.
Exactly, for our timing.
Yeah.
For the timing, exactly.
So what was junior high and high school like for you?
Junior high was still in the little town of Leclaire, and so pretty the status quo. It was when we went to high school, and that's when our school consolidated with Pleasant Valley. And so then that was the big change. And I think I was the second class to go to Pleasant Valley. So that meant we were bused. And 3 times bigger. Let's see, probably, 4 times bigger, you know, as far as class is concerned. So it's a whole new, just a whole new experience. However, I had cousins that went to that high school already that helped a little bit. But the big thing that happened to me in 8th grade that really set me on the projection that I went was my dad was the chairman of the building committee for a new church building. And he and the committee, there was other people in the committee. He was chairman, but he had all this help. He would bring home the blueprints and roll them out on the table. And I would just pore over them. And I just found it fascinating. And he said, well, the architect disappointed us tonight. And because they brought the bids in. And he says, and they didn't do this and they didn't do that. And I says, well, why didn't they just turn it this way and turn it that way? And he looked at me and he says, maybe we should just hire you, Joanie. Anyway, that whole idea, and I could look at those blueprints and see 3 dimensions.
Wow.
And I didn't realize that until he started bringing those blueprints home. And so they did end up firing the architect, and they found another contractor that built churches in the greater Iowa and western Illinois area to build it. But that got me into drafting in high school. And a cousin said, why didn't you take drafting? And I really didn't know, but we were a boy cousin. And I'll tell you, I loved it because it mixed the math and all that. And I thought, Lord, what's happening here? This is a whole different idea, because really I thought I wanted to go into Christian education. You didn't girls at that time didn't think of becoming pastors.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't, I just thought Christian education. So all through high school, though, I still kept doing the drafting and got all the math I could because I loved math and that. And then I couldn't get a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get a scholarship to a Christian college. I mean, the cost was just prohibitive. And being the oldest, I didn't want to take away from, you know, my younger siblings. And I knew, you know, I would be the first one to go to college. So I decided, well, I'll try Iowa State and see if I can get in and maybe go into architecture. And I got in. And it was a lot cheaper.
Yep.
And this pastor I referred to, and he was still our pastor when I was in high school. He said, Joanie, you can serve the Lord in any capacity, wherever you are.
That's true. Yeah.
And that just sort of allowed me the space.
Yeah.
And consequently, that's how I met David.
Yeah.
I met David the weekend before classes even started when we were freshmen. I had not dated, he had never dated, but we met at the Memorial Union at a dance.
Really?
Yeah. So, you know, God still had his hand on things, and I taught Sunday school through college at a church in Ames and got to know people there. David went with me. He was a believer, fortunately, and so God used us, you know, in lots of different ways through college.
Yeah.
So from that first day that you guys met, you guys kind of continue to be friends? Is that what you're saying?
Well, see, September 10th would be our 54th anniversary of our first date.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
54
Long
years.
time.
51 years we've been married. What happened on that first night of meeting at this dance, the gal next to me, who I just met that day, I just had arrived on campus because I had to work at that store until the very last minute. Her name was Judy, like my sister, and David asked her to dance. And she said, oh, no. And I thought, you came to a dance to dance. And I said, I'll dance. So that's how we met. And after we left the Memorial Union, David and his friend, they lived up at Sigma Chi fraternity just up the hill. And he followed us out, and he asked us group of gals, there were 5 or 6 of us, would you like a ride home? Because my car's right up. Because we lived way out at the towers at Iowa State, which is a good haul. And I had hurt my toe that day, but I didn't allow that to
Stop
me from dancing, you know. Anyway, and they all said no, and I said yes at the same time. And they all looked at me like, what are you doing? Because they didn't know me, I didn't know them. They thought, my toe hurts. So we drove out to the towers, and we sat and talked for 3 hours,
Oh, wow.
sharing our lives, our growing up. And he said, I'd never had a girl talk to me like that. You know, just share their heart or just be
Comfortable?
Yeah, and but it was a give and take. It wasn't just me. It was finding out about his family, and him finding out about my family, and our families were very, very important to us. And so, and how he grew up. So we covered a lot of ground in 3 hours. And the girls upstairs in the dorm were thinking, where is she? But I showed up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So then he asked me out for a date, and we sort of just
So you guys
stuck
got married
together.
at the end of college then, when you graduated?
We got married at the end of our junior year. We had 1 year left, and he had been gone. That's part of his story. I'm going to leave that.
All right.
Yeah, I'll
We'll get
leave
to him
that.
eventually.
Why? Yeah.
No more toilets cause problems.
Yeah, exactly. So, so we had 1 year left and lived out at Pamela Court.
Okay.
And, and we graduated on the same day. That doesn't happen very often.
No.
And I did my 5-year program in 4 years and got it done.
Oh, wow.
Because they were changing the College of the architectural degree over to College of Design. And so I didn't have too much wiggle room I had to just really cram. Thank goodness for David, because I don't know if I would have made it. He was my cheerleader. So
Is he an architect too then? or-
no,
Okay.
he's wood products or forestry
Okay.
products. So a lot of lap over, building.
So I wanted to ask you about, you said like seeing the blueprints in 3 dimensions. So are you like a very visual thinker?
Yeah, visual, yeah, and 3-dimensional type. Yeah, I'd say that. And I think after a number of years, David knows when I'm studying something. He says, "You can see inside, can't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I can pretty much, just by looking at something, I can figure it out." But that's how my brain works.
Yeah. Well, when you were talking about like your pastor telling you that you can serve the Lord, like even doing architecture, it made me think of like all the passages in the Bible that are about architecture.
Jesus is our cornerstone.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And like the descriptions of the temple in the Old Testament, descriptions of even like the New
The
Jerusalem.
tabernacle.
Tabernacle.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. So many
Do you
cubits.
just like pour over those
I
and
love
see
it.
them in
Yes,
full detail?
yes, yes.
Everybody else is
and I
super
want to
bored.
see the drawing, Yeah, I
that-
get it.
That is an amazing point, that you can serve God in any capacity. Josh is an engineer and, working with computers all day and doing whatever it is he does. I'm sure sometimes it can feel very distant from, like, if you were a pastor, if you were, like, directly working in ministry or something like that. Or if you're a mom and you just wash dishes all day and wipe butt,
Yeah.
It feels very distant from preaching the gospel on the street.
Right.
But you're serving God doing even that.
And even I never worked for an architectural firm. I worked for, our first jobs were with Roll Screen Company, or PELLA Corp now. Okay. But that experience, window installations, like yippee, But what that led to was Stu Kuiper, a very godly man who was the vice president and president of Roll Screen Company at that time, and his father founded the company. He was interested in developing the city of Pella, tourism, and making the Dutch heritage very accessible to people.
Yeah.
And so the first day of work, he calls me down to his office and says, "Would you like to be on the Dutch Fronts Committee?" And I said, I thought to myself, I don't know if I have really a choice here, being called down that first day. So what I did was worked with a committee of business people from the little town of Pella, that they were helping store owners remodel their fronts to look like Dutch, Holland. And so that first day, I get this big portfolio of all the photos he had taken over in the Netherlands of these different buildings that he saw could be worked in around Pella. And then what happened in the next 10 years is that I would work with contractors to refabricate, to what fit the proportion of that particular building to fashion them into what looked more Dutch.
Wow.
So, and then got involved with the historical village and reproportioned the Schulte Church and built that up too. So that was not only, working with window installations, that was my sideline. And then, we started our family too.
So are a lot of those storefronts like still intact there? Wow. I bet that's pretty crazy going back there and visiting and seeing all that.
Yeah. But that was just part of it. Wasn't just me. It was a committee, and I was the go-between, and that's the other thing God used. Architecture like that can get pretty heady. You can think yourself pretty, awesome. But you're working with contractors that work very, very hard. And I learned first thing, and I'm so glad that my dad taught us in the store how to work with people, because that was key to working with contractors.
Yeah.
And, here comes this little Missy that thinks she knows it all. And, I had to really show respect to them, because they're the ones that are doing it.
Yeah.
They're the ones that have the know-how to get it done. I just had the pretty design. And I have an idea of how to do things, but I learned a lot of diplomacy within a sense of my Christian faith. How do you show respect to people that are down in the dirt and down,
Yeah, contractors can be a difficult bunch. Being one myself.
I know. I'm sitting here and understand.
We're usually not the most organized people.
And I wouldn't have said that. That's not what I'm getting at. It is just that I have to give contractors the benefit of the doubt of what their experience has been.
Yeah.
And, why should I question that? I can ask questions, could we do it this way? Well, they may say, I've never tried it that way, but I said, okay, let's put our two heads together. I was always tried to be reasonable and not a know-it-all.
Yeah.
Not a know-it-all. Yeah, because that does not work. That won't.
You've never built a building before, and you've never.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all of those experiences. I think back now, and I think, wow, I have been so very, very blessed and fortunate. And then living in Pella 10 years, or we lived outside because we had to build a house.
Yeah. Wow.
So we built a house at 24 years old.
Not quite 20. But.
No, but my
That's
dad
still
said,
very
you can do
impressive,
it. Well, and that's when interest rates were so high, we couldn't get a loan. So we had to go convince. We got really creative and convinced the banker. We've got sweat equity. We bought our lot. Yeah, we had some student loans, but we were paying them, and we were both working. But we convinced them that with our sweat equity, we could build this house. I had all the plans and all, you know.
It probably helped that you had a professional drawing.
Exactly. And it did make a difference. And but we could not get a loan on an already built house that cost $20,000 more.
Wow.
Didn't make sense. But our sweat equity is that's what we called it. So they went along with it. But anyway, back
Do you know if that house is still standing there?
Yep.
It is.
We moved into it in 1978, so yeah.
And then you guys started your family around then? Or?
Yep.
Okay.
79 was when Ben was born. And that's when I worked another year and a half for PELLA. I kept up the Dutch France committee, but then I went freelance. And I just worked. Over those first 5 years, then I got to know enough of the contractors. They would just call me, Joanie, can you draw this up? I've got a couple that want this house. And so it was mostly housing. I did some restaurants, did a Happy Joe's and, several restaurants, but just more low key at my own pace. And the boys, they could build Legos under my drawing table, and so, yeah.
So did you ever take up any other forms of drawing, or was it just the drafting?
The drafting, some. I did a few things for the museum, drawing the steamboat captains' houses, for a calendar and stuff like that. But not. No, it's more.
The mathematical part, like you were saying.
Yeah, that's what I.
So how many kids did you guys end up having?
We have 3 older ones, and then we adopted 3 younger ones. And that was a surprise God just sort of put into our lap. Because we talked about adoption early on in the 80s, especially when Romania there was a lot of orphans, and my heart went out.
Because the communists came in, right? And basically kind of decimated Eastern Europe.
Yep. And then after we left PELLA, we went to Illinois, and the Lord He led us to amazing churches. I feel like I've gotten a degree at every church. I've learned, something amazing, that church, only that church could give as a gift. But it's what you put into it too,
Yeah.
But then we went to Illinois, and I was part of the Christian Women's Club. Have you ever heard of that? That's a Stonecroft Ministries. And that was bringing people, women of the community, to know Jesus Christ. It was an avenue of outreach, because the women that were part of it were all from different denominations, but our hearts were to share Christ. So that's where I got started, and I dealt less and less with architecture and designing at that point, and my family took over and serving the Lord in different capacities in Illinois. And then we came back to Dubuque. And can you believe David bought a house without me seeing it? It was a brand new spec house. And because it was getting to be winter time, and he said, "It's a good deal, Joanie, and here's the layout. I know you're going to like it." I liked it. It was fine.
You could see it in your head, right?
Yeah. Yeah. All he had to do was take pictures of the outside, and I had it figured out. But it was out in the country. But what he didn't know was that Jehovah's Witnesses were all around us. And so that was a real time of spreading the wings of just being God's vessel right where he has you planted.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. I had to be who I was and express myself. So that was an interesting 3 years.
You guys were only there for 3 years?
Uh-huh. And then we went to New Zealand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For what?
We built a wood processing plant. We designed, built a plant for capital investors to process radiata pine.
Wow.
And you took your 6 kids.
Our 3.
Oh, okay.
That
So
was
there was
only
still 3 at the time. Okay.
So what was that time like? Well, sorry, I wanted to go back to, we were kind of like blowing through a bunch of stuff.
Our lives are just good.
You mentioned that you feel like you learned something from each of these churches that you were a part of. Could you tell us more about that?
Okay. When we were in Illinois, that was an American Baptist church, and we were that church was, its foundation was outreach, because that was where Chanute Air Force Base was, in Rantoul, Illinois. So there was the basis of the Air Force Base that lived there and taught there. It was a teaching base. But there was new recruits every year, these young recruits. And so it was a mission church. And so we became part of the young people's teaching of these young recruits. So, I mean, we had a Sunday school class that David and I taught that were 20 and 22-year-olds, and they had their first babies, and we'd only have them for 2 years, and then they'd be gone, and it was so exciting to see the growth and to feel they were so needy to feel a part of something and a part of belonging. But at the same time, David and I felt we belonged within that church to help in that mission. So that was an interesting time, and our kids were little, and we had Carly, our oldest daughter at that time. Just an exciting time that God used there. And then in Dubuque, that was harder. That was harder to find a church home there. We did, but it was definitely a growing time. I would say the big thing in Dubuque, David he was the plant manager there, and he had a lot of demands on his time, those 3 years. It was a tough job, with union wanting to come in, and that's his story, if he wants to. So that was what we learned, what I learned, because of the Christian Women's Club. I had a lot of friends that were Catholic, because Dubuque it was 66%, but I don't know what it is anymore. But I met a lot of born-again Catholics, and they stayed with their families because they knew that was how they would bring Christ to them. That they were, I learned a lot in that respect, to respect them.
So then, when you're saying that, like, you were surrounded by Jehovah's Witnesses, like, all of your neighbors were Jehovah's Witnesses?
Just about all of them, except one Catholic.
And what was that like, interacting with them?
Well, they respected us, and we respected them. And this one particular wife I got to know quite well, and she was raised Catholic, but then married her husband, Jehovah's Witness. I knew she had a lot of difficulties accepting things, but because of family, she needed to stay, but she asked a lot of questions.
And so what, like, I wouldn't say I know, like, a ton about Jehovah's Witness, but what would you say, like, was the biggest, like, just as you talked with them or whatever, what was, like, the biggest thing that came up of, like, we believe this, you believe this, we can't.
It was basically the aspect of who's saved. Did they give up? You know, am I saved? I'm saved. You're saved. You know, I think just the question, you know, that this particular gal just was not clear.
Yeah. It's my uncle on my dad's side. His older brother is Jehovah's Witness. And it is confusing because they believe that
44,000, exactly.
is literally all that have been and will be saved. And everyone else gets like a new body, but you kind of just live on earth. And it's just this.
Yeah.
And so that's really confusing, so that when you meet with them, and communion's different too. Because if you are saved, then you get like, and you say, yeah, I am going to heaven, you know, I'm one of the 144,000, then you take it, but otherwise you don't. And usually I'm impressed to hear that this girl is asking questions, because you get the Watchtower magazines, you don't really ask a lot of like questions. You know?
Well, I don't know if she really ever
believed it. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, because there's a lot of things that don't make sense.
Exactly,
like, don't match up.
Especially being raised Catholic.
Yeah, you know, the
and
truth.
You know, so I was a friend anyway.
Yeah, well, it's good that you know you had that. I mean, it sounds like your time in Dubuque was like a little bit more of a desert, and like you didn't have
wilderness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we.
It sounds like you didn't have quite as clear of like a purpose, but you were still able to find.
Oh yeah.
Like that, the purpose wasn't coming from outside. Like nobody was telling you have to be doing this. It was like I'm going to do. I'm going to find a church even if it's hard.
Right.
I'm going to reach out to these people even if they don't believe the same things that I do.
Right. Right.
When you said I'm going to be who I'm going to be and express myself, like it sounds like you're saying you're going to be the Christian that you are, even if these people believe a different kind of Christianity. You're just going to represent Christ where you are.
Exactly. So I think it was just God was preparing us for what lied ahead. That was also when David and I went to our first weekend to remember with Family Life. And it was through that weekend that we were able to set our marriage in a new direction, you might say, because with his job at that time and my working with the Christian Women's Club and church and that, you know, there was like this, we were going this way and then we'd get together. It was just a volatile time in his work and that. But that, 1991, November 1991, that God used to set us on course for the rest. And that's why we've volunteered with Family Life ever since, because it made such a difference.
This conference, like
That
helped you guys
conference.
put your goal, align your goals and purposes.
Exactly, because that particular job had taken such, it was a hard situation. It was, up to that point, it was 2 years. And we knew, you know, something wasn't right. We couldn't find the right church, you know, or that we felt like we were growing. But that helped us put things in line. And it was like the writing was on the wall that I'm going to take you through these steps. And
so what was it that like you learned or experienced on that weekend? That really
praying together. we're not each other's enemies. Okay? Those two things, because when we pray together, we're allowing our hearts to be emptied in truth, and we know where each other stand.
Yeah. I definitely experienced that. Like when you're praying with your spouse, in my case, my wife, like, I'm not gonna lie.
No.
You can't lie while you're praying.
Right.
So it's like you gotta
Right.
just have to open up and tell the truth.
Yeah. And really what comes out,
Yeah.
when you're praying your heart. And you know the intent of each other at that point. And that really solidified.
When you can't pray against each other's will, too. I know some couples pray against what their spouse wants. You can't do that.
No. So those are the two main things, that we're not each other's enemies. And another big thing is that, and I never ever wanted to, or tried never to do this, is you know how women get together and sometimes they complain about their husbands or vice versa. Never have we done that. But that's one thing that is very much told in those conferences, that you don't want to tear your spouse down ever in front of other people, you know. And really, if you're praying together and you look at each other as not your enemies, you don't have to tear them down.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reason to, because you have good communication at that point. So now, it takes work, because even as you age, your hearing goes, and you don't quite hear each other, you know, as you thought you did. So it takes work, constant. So,
Well, and the point about tearing your spouse down, because I feel like if you're saying that so often to other people, you're going to start to believe it. Because it's possible you're just saying it in the moment because you feel frustrated and it's not the truth. But then if you say it often enough, then you're going to believe that about your spouse, and then you're going to treat them in that negative way.
yeah.
I think about the Proverbs 31 woman where it says her husband is respected in the courts. If you're gossiping about your husband, it's going to be very hard for people to respect him.
That's exactly right. Exactly. Yeah. So
how'd you guys get to New Zealand?
David was buying lumber for the company there in Dubuque, and this guy comes through. His name was Dennis Wood. And they got talking and found out David knows all about wood and how to cut it and to get the most efficiency and all that. Then found out I was an architect, and he says, "Oh, you two are made for this job we're looking for." Anyway, he can tell that story, but yeah, we ended up going to
And you guys were both employed building the...
Well, yeah, I tag teamed it, you
Okay.
might say. Yeah, I wasn't necessarily on the, how would you say, the roster of things, but they allowed me to help. So,
What
but
was it
that's-
like picking up 3 kids and moving?
You know, it was
Maybe such a
very
big move.
interesting, because when I met David, I sensed adventure. I did, you know, and it's been that way, you know, all the time. And so we prayed, and if we'd take one step, and if that met the criterion, whatever, we got to the point that they weren't going to allow us into the country because of the visa. So this consortium of capital investors took it to the parliament, and we had approval at 19 hours before we were to take off. We had everything. We had everything bought, sold the house and everything, and it was until 19 hours before we were to leave did we have approval.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
And David's dad kept pacing the floor because we were at their house waiting. And he says, "How do you know?" And I says, "God's got it. God's got it. If we're supposed to go, it'll work out. You know, we've gotten this far. He wouldn't have allowed us to get this far. We've only got that set of keys. That's it. And we have no keys." So, yeah, God did remarkable things.
Wow.
Remarkable things there. So we had a 3-year visa, and we did it in 2 years. Built and got it started. Employed 120 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was it like living in New Zealand? Like, I don't really know a whole lot about New Zealand except for that's where they filmed the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
That was on the North Island. We're on the South Island.
Okay.
Dunedin, and over that curve is the Antarctica.
Oh, wow.
So we were really down the southern part. University of Otago is there. So very interesting. We had some great friends. Wonderful church. We were just part of a small satellite church of a bigger church in town. And we had every nationality. And it was just wonderful.
Wow.
And we were able to do home builders, marriage Bible studies in those 2 years. So it was just a wonderful experience. Our kids loved it. It was they were 7, 10, and 13. And when Ben went, he was my height at 5'8". When we come home, he was 6'5". He grew 9 inches in those 2 years.
Wow.
And you don't think that's possible, but we saw it. David grew fast too, but and they wore shorts. And of course, he and his math skills, like his mom, convinced the lead. What did they call him? The headmaster. Headmaster, that he had more square inches exposed and that he needed long pants for winter time. So then it was finding long enough pants. But
So how
Anyway.
was the culture there different from the
it was
United
more
States?
now this was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
More laid back, just an easier pace. Yeah, it was just an easier pace. And school was, the kids liked school there. We had primary, intermediate, and high school. And I got to teach Bible in schools.
Oh, wow.
Every school, every primary school, the Board of Trustees got to choose the extra curriculums. And so one was Bible in schools. And Carly went to a school that did that, and I was asked to teach.
So I'm a little ignorant about New Zealand's history, but where is Old Zealand? If it's New Zealand, where is Old Zealand?
I don't know. I don't
I have
know.
no idea where that name comes from.
No, I don't. Well, that's a good question.
Maybe it's the same one, but they revamped it.
Well, it was
So rebranding.
You know, like Australia, they say is the that's where they sent the prisoners from. Okay, Christchurch.
Do we have an answer?
Dutch, it looks like.
It was
So
settled.
like a region in Dutch. It was Zealand.
Zealand.
Oh, Zealand and New Zealand. Okay.
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 So the Dutch again.
Yeah,
can't
there
get
you
away
go.
from the
Can't get
Dutch.
But yeah. The Northern Island is more Polynesian because it's, you know, with the Samoas and that. But the Maori Indians, or the Maori, are the group, the first initial
Yeah, the natives there.
Yeah, thank you. But Chinese came to do the mining in the South Island of the gold and different minerals. But Christchurch was founded by the Church of England. Dunedin was founded by the Edinburgh. It's Little Edinburgh. So there's all those connections historically. But what's fascinating about New Zealand is that you have every land type in that 1,000 miles.
Wow.
I mean, you have rainforest, you have glaciers, you have geysers, you have
That's crazy.
I mean, desert. You have, but it stretches out that 100 miles or 1,000 miles. But we were only on the South Island. You had mountains. We could go up in Queenstown and the Southern Alps. I did not ski. But anyway, so then we came back after 2 years and settled in David's home area. Took care of his folks till they passed. And that's where we met the 3 younger kids.
Okay. So it just seems like you have a personality that can just go along with things like that. That would be hard for me to just suddenly move. And now you're going to talk about how you guys adopted 3 children. Like, lots of life changes. And you know, they say every time you move, it's a trauma. So I would experience that. It would be traumatic for me. So do you feel like you have that personality to just go with the flow and make the best of...
I think it's just because of faith that I've trusted God. Okay, what's next? What do you have in store? Never did we think by that time we would adopt. You know, we were middle 40s. You know,
And your kids were how old at that point?
Ben was in college.
Okay.
Sam was a senior, and Carly was in junior high.
Okay. Wow.
And I had taken a job as postmaster relief in this little town of Laurel where David grew up. He was on a farm, but and he was on the road as a tech support. I forget his title at that point. He's had many titles. It doesn't matter. That he did a lot of traveling in 13 upper Midwest states. So I had to get to know the town, you know, another whole set of people. And so I took this job, and it was there that we had the lady in town of 250 that was a foster parent. And I got to know her a little bit because I would pick up all the 7th, 8th grade boys to take them baseball because she wouldn't take them anywhere. And our boys were in the county ball, and I would take a van full of boys, you know, so that they had that experience. Otherwise, they weren't gonna. They played in town, but then they'd have to play other towns, you know. So I got to know her, and she was not an easy person. Very strict, and I wanted these boys to have fun, you know. And we did have fun. But one day she came into the post office, and she brought 3 little ones in, and I thought they were her grandchildren that were visiting. Lo and behold, she said, "Oh, no, these 3 are getting ready to be adopted." I said, "Really?" And it was just like, okay, Lord, no, these 3 aren't, you don't mean these 3 for us.
Oh.
And I said, maybe 1 at a time.
Yeah, 3.
3. And God just wouldn't let it go. And I prayed, and finally, you know, I was giving David hints every night, you know, like, read this passage, you know. I'm struggling without telling him, you know. Finally, on a Saturday morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, he says, "Joanie, what are you trying to tell me?" And I told him, and he says, "Well, I won't be able to go back to sleep," but he said that let's just take the first step. I'm not going to refute, or, I'm not going to say you're wrong. We're here to obey God. So we just took one step. And as David would say, and the door slammed right behind us. Okay, take the next step. So that's what happened.
So were these your 3 kids that you were adopting?
Siblings
Were they siblings? Yeah.
had to be adopted all at once. No separation. Because they were so close together. And they'd been in 3 foster homes already.
Yeah.
Oh,
And they were 3, 4, and 5.
wow.
Yeah. I think that is one of the worst things that the foster care and adoption system can do is separate siblings. And so
Yeah.
I think that's it's really amazing that you guys were willing to adopt all 3.
We had no idea what we were getting into.
Yeah.
Even though even though you've raised your own 3 and you're not guaranteed of how they're going to turn out either. But God's mission was to teach me a few more things. I didn't know it all. He humbled me immensely. Immensely. And even though having already raised the 3, I wasn't prepared. Not in the way I thought I was. So it was a struggle. And then finally, 2004, we'd had them 4. They were with us 4 years. And then David got off the road. He knew he had to be home.
Yeah.
And Andrew, the older one, we had gone to the REC has a open house every year. They serve a meal, and we were out in the country, so we had REC electric.
Yeah, the electric company.
Yeah, and so we went, and Andrew says after we got done and about ready to leave, he says, "Dad, you should work here," because they wanted him to be at home all the time. Lo and behold, within a year, he was working there.
Yeah.
God had provided that. It was amazing. So then David could be home. That helped, but a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
A lot of baggage that the 3 have had to, and we still had to walk with them.
So what were some of those challenges of being an adoptive parent?
You thought you knew it. You thought you knew best, but you don't know the hurt that they've. You don't know how they process.
Yeah.
Our daughter Carly, who was in junior high at the time when they came, had an immense ability to connect. They allowed her. They allowed her in. In a way that I couldn't. So she was the youngest. Then she became the middle. And then Sam leaves to go to college, and she becomes the oldest. So she has been a real pivot point. And she's got an amazing faith. And she's close to the 3 younger ones. So I'm thankful for her.
Yeah.
And her faith. But some of the things, I had to let David lead in a new way. Because, he had been on the road. And I would have to take care of things while he's gone, through the week. So when he got the job then that kept him home, I had to allow him to lead.
Yeah, there'd be a difficulty of, well, that's not how we do it here.
I know.
That's not how I run this place.
Yeah, and it was not an easy. That took us through another season of growing in our marriage. because I've had to become, pretty independent when he was gone. We always talked every night, but still. So God just keeps, if we're open to what God has, why should we say no? Because we're just not allowing ourselves then to learn that much more.
Yeah.
About who we are and what he intends us to be.
And who he is.
And who he is and how big he is.
Yeah.
That we can trust him. So for all the changes we've been through, I trust him more and more and more.
Yeah, I think it's really insightful what you said about not understanding like the hurt that your adoptive children had. I think like that's something I've really recognized with like people who have been adopted, and like it's not the case every single time, but there's definitely situations where parents can think like, oh, I'll adopt this child, I'll give them a loving home, and that will fix everything for them. And it's like, that's not how it works. Because like even for children who have never met their birth parents, there's still like this just underlying, at least as far as I understand, there's just this underlying feeling of abandonment and like I'm not good enough. And that leads to all sorts of things. I was talking, so I don't know if I've talked with you much about my current job, but my current job, I'm working at a nonprofit called Hope CDA, which is, it's essentially like a 1-year sobriety program for like men who are looking for a second chance in their life. And so I'm a construction foreman there. We're fixing up houses. And so it's part of the program. It's just a work program.
Right.
Anyways, I was talking with one of the guys this week, one of the younger guys. There's several guys in it who are around my age or even younger. And I was like asking him about his family. And he was like, oh yeah, I was adopted. And I just like, all these things clicked together that I hadn't realized that all but like one of the young men in the program were all adopted. Yeah. And some of them still had difficult families that they were adopted into, but still it's like having that wound as a child can just set you on the wrong trajectory. And I think like for myself, like just thinking about adopting, I don't know if that's one thing that's made me like feel like, oh, would I ever want to adopt? I don't really think I would want to. But like if I did, I would just want that to be front and center in my mind, is like, I don't actually know what's best for this child. I don't understand what's going on in their head, and just needing to make that a focus of understanding them rather than just
loving them, because they may not even feel it, because the Lord set up the world in a certain way, a mom and a dad, and then you have your children and you love them and you raise them so that they can love the Lord. And when you deviate from the way that the Lord set up the world, there's consequences to that. And a child can be adopted into a loving family, but mom and dad, biological mom and dad, are very important. It's very important that a child is with, their family if it is safe for them to be there. That is the first option, and that is the best thing, and that's how God has set it up. And even when you think about how we are adopted into the family of Christ, we come with baggage from when we weren't his children.
Yes.
And it takes our whole life for him to repair all that damage.
That's why I'm still...
And it's not done until you're dead.
Yes.
Because you have all the damage from before you were his child, from before you were adopted. Right. Because you weren't his child, and then he renews you, and it's an every single day thing, and you still have your flesh that's calling you back to your old ways, but you have a loving father who provides for you, who is trustworthy, who is perfect, and you still have problems. Can you imagine you get adopted by a human, a regular human person?
Yes,
you
with
know,
our
Yeah.
difficulties.
and you're trying to love this kid. Of course, they're not going to. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah, it's trust. Who, if they couldn't trust their own parents, what other adults are they going to trust?
Yeah.
And that's really an underlying issue for them, the trust issue. But we all have trust issues,
Yeah.
don't we? So, I think now that they're adults, I think to allow them to see our struggles now is that we're not perfect and that they're adults and saying, hey, we've got difficulties. They realize it now, that life is a struggle. And even though we know the Lord, and I think, how many people you think, if you're a Christian, you should have a perfect life?
Yeah.
Well, it's not that way.
No.
Because our humanness gets in the way. And so the humbling, the humility, and to actually say, you know what, I really don't know.
Yeah.
To just be honest and say, instead of the parental, this is the way it is, or,
Well, because they can give you more grace that way too.
exactly. So,
Yeah, I was thinking about the verse earlier this week where Jesus says, in this world you will have troubles, but behold, I have overcome the world.
yep.
Take heart in some of the translations.
Yeah.
Take heart, I have overcome the world. I
Yeah.
really like
Yeah.
that.
I wasn't trying to exactly quote it.
Well, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Well,
that correction.
I go to a lot of verses that I'm insufficient.
You get,
Yeah.
you get the gist of it.
Oh yeah, and that's. There was a particularly difficult day when the three younger ones, Carly was probably at a volleyball game or something or other, and we had a large rainbow set like out here, in our backyard. We were out in the country. They loved it out in the country, climbing trees. I mean, it was the best place for them.
Oh, yeah.
But this one particular day was really hard because the boys were not listening and they were just at each other. And they're really close together. I mean, they're the same age for a year or for 3 days. And, they're just, anyway. And I was probably pretty much at my wit's end. And there was no way of trying to help them work things out. Next thing I knew, the pea gravel was being thrown at each other, and I had Amy come in, and get out of the way. And I just literally laid my head down on the table and bawled.
Yeah, I would cry too. I wouldn't know what to do.
Because I said, Lord, I don't know what to do. Trying to help these kids understand that they're to love one another. They're not to be enemies. It's just, I was at my wit's end. And that was probably before David had gotten the new job too, because it was heavy. And David's folks were still living, so I was taking care of that.
Oh, wow.
I was really...
You were doing what your mom was doing.
So, yeah. Just, I had been pulled. And that's when I fell to my knees and said, Lord, I can't carry this. And yet the people in our small church congregation there, that small town, could not see it. They just thought we were doing this great thing. But, they didn't understand. They just thought they were all cute kids. But, they were struggling, even with all the counseling we had. And that they just struggled. So it wasn't until I relinquished a little bit more of thinking I was to carry it all and just really got into God's Word again because I needed more. But I did not have the resources. Being out in a little community, I did not have probably the resources that you would have around here. But
When already being so tired from everything else you're doing.
yeah,
When you say that, it's on such a smaller scale. I was watching some nieces and nephews and then my kid, and they were outside and two of the younger ones were fighting over a sink, and I was exhausted, and I yelled, stop doing that, let go of the sink. And they didn't listen, and they were still fighting, and I did not know what to do. So I just yelled, Josh, you gotta come down here, they're fighting. And I was just done. I didn't even do anything. I just went in, and then I looked out and I saw my kid throw the sink. And I'm like, we can't be raising people like this. And so I started crying, and Josh comes down from his office, and he's like, oh, it's okay, it's not that big of a deal, they're just being kids. But the drama of it all in my head, it just looked so big to me. And
yes.
It wasn't just toddlers being toddlers. It was like,
No.
This says something about me and I can't handle it, so I'm going to go lay down and cry.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine, you
Yeah.
going through that.
Yeah, just having to face the reality of I can't do this constantly. And so that memory has kept me, how would you say, humble to the point that I need him even more so, but that I had to be truthful with myself as to how much I can handle.
Yeah.
And that God didn't design me to think I had to be perfect.
Well, and even that process of being honest with yourself, because that can cause disappointment in yourself too.
Right.
I should be stronger than this.
Oh, yeah.
I should do more.
Well, that all led up to that.
Yeah.
To get to that point.
Yeah.
See, and it wasn't until it was a new brokenness. Okay, you're broken at every stage of growth. Okay, so this is a new stage of being broken in a way that I hadn't been before. Whether it's pride, pride takes form, and then there's the selfishness, and then there's unbelief. Every sin comes under those three. Okay, so, but there's different degrees of each one. And all I can see is God says, well, you need to just work on that a little bit more. And I think that's part of it. It was being broken with a pride aspect of it.
So had you felt like in your life before that, you pretty much succeeded at everything you tried to do?
Oh, no. I never got to that point. But you get to the point, it's not in those that you label it pride. It's labeling parent. You know what I mean? There's the pride of a parent. There's the pride of your work. There's different aspects of each one of those. How much unbelief or how much belief do you have in all those different areas?
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is in the parenting aspect that I thought I had to be perfect. I had to meet a certain criteria, because these kids need a perfect parent. No, they don't. They need a broken parent. They need a parent that's humble to show the love of Christ.
Yeah, a broken parent that shows a perfect God.
Yeah. So, those are the things you learn. So yeah, you know what? Our kids teach us.
Yeah.
Teach us lessons. Yes.
God uses our kids to teach us. We're teaching them, but at the same time, He's using our kids to teach us. And even He's teaching us with adult children. It's not over yet.
You're not done.
Nope. Nope.
So, at what point did you guys, because this was all in, no, it wasn't Leclaire. Leclaire was where you were born. This was Dave's hometown, right?
Laurel was.
Laurel.
Yes.
Okay.
He left at 18 to go to school. 25 years later, we go back to Laurel because when we come from New Zealand, we didn't have a place to light except in their basement. And him looking for a job, and he had a job within a month. And this new job. So then we found a house, and because we decided his parents were well into their 70s, that we would just stay there because his siblings were away, and we saw them home. And thus why we're here in Marion.
Yeah, so how did you make it to Marion?
Okay, let's see. We were in Laurel. Okay, so Amy was a senior in high school, and God called us to join staff of Family Life with Campus Crusade. So that meant raising our support. We took 2 years of meeting with people to raise our support, and moved to Maumelle. That's where the headquarters, Little Rock, was the headquarters of Family Life at that time. And because we'd volunteered for 30 years. So that's where God called us, and worked there 6 years. And there was a change in jobs, and it required a lot more computer, and our financial advisor had just told us, Dave and Joanie, you could be looking at retirement. And we looked at each other. We're not ready for retirement. And then his job changed that was going to require much more computer skills than that, and we were already fried with that. So Sam, our son that lives here, had said 2 years before, Mom and Dad, if you decide to retire, you can always move to Marion. And so when this all come up, we called Sam, and we said, Sam, what did you mean by that? He says, well, we want to take care of you like you took care of your grandma and grandpa. I says, well, we're not quite ready for that. but that's why we came to Marion, because it was centrally located with our other kids and my mom. My dad had already passed in that. So we decided to retire and come here, not knowing anything except them. And moved in January 1st of 2020, before COVID, not even knowing COVID was on the...
Well, if you had known, that would have been something special.
Well, the funny thing is we think David had COVID in February.
Oh, really?
Because we had gone to Virginia, where our oldest daughter and Air Force husband is, and he was really sick because he had been at some kind of conference where 500 men, and I don't know how many were sick from all over the nation, and he comes home sick, and then David comes home sick. He probably had COVID at that time. But anyway, yes, at that time, we looked online for church. First thing, we moved in that January 1st. The last 5 moves have been December, January. Snow all the time. So we're not moving again.
At least
But-
move in the summer if you
No,
do.
no, it really works out great for the tax year.
Oh yeah, that it
Yeah,
simplifies
start-
things.
Yeah, it simplifies things. Anyway, so what I wanted to say was that we went online and studied all the churches, non-denominational, because we had a wonderful church in Arkansas, wonderful small church. So this is what we picked. Came the first Sunday, and your dad says, sorry, it was just the state of the church address, is that how we said it?
State of the church address.
Yeah, state of the church. We said we loved it because we got the overview of everything. You know, this isn't new to us. We want to know. It really was perfect. So we have never.
And you guys just jumped in with both feet. You started
because
being involved in ministry, and it kind of felt like, where did these people come from, and how are they running everything?
Oh, I hope not.
You guys just joined things and became part of the family and the body, and then it started to feel like you were always here.
Yeah, that's just because of experience of knowing that's how God wants to use us.
Well, you really picked a good year to move to Cedar Rapids.
Wasn't it though? Yeah, yeah.
Where?
Because then the Rachel.
Yeah, I mean the
Derecho. You know what? See, we chose to live because we felt God leading us to this HOA. We were not going to go to 55 plus area, you know, and the palatial. You know, we wanted to serve. We wanted to be available to all age groups. So where we live, we have 102 units in that horseshoe, and it's all ages, and it's pretty close, you know, but God's using us there, just right where we're at. And we wanted to downsize, but now with all my mom's stuff, it's not enough room. But anyway, you know, it's okay. So he has us where he wants us. Yeah.
So, you mentioned before that you felt like each church you've been at, you've learned something from. What do you feel like you've learned from New Life Community Church?
Community is, you know, the body of believers here really get to know one another. Yeah, there's a lot of family links here, which is great. And that's good. But you enjoy living life with one another. You know, we can't participate all the time. Excuse me. That aspect of fellowship is wonderful. But I think the teaching overall, the fact that we have 4 pastors that can preach the word, bring the message, the saving knowledge of Christ, is very phenomenal for this size of church. And I always go home thinking, wow, I've learned a lot. But I can chew on it all week. There's a lot. And the fact with Barnabas groups, life groups, which we've had that experience in the past, but the strength of that is vital to a church family. And for those that aren't part of that, they don't know what they're missing.
Yeah.
And they can be a little skittish to begin with, but we just need to coax them to trying it. And I think this seniors group, I am very, very encouraged by this because, you know, we can't wait to bring a neighbor. We can't bring another neighbor, this neighbor, that especially when you get into our age group. You know, if family isn't around, or if they've lost a spouse, or they've just feel like they don't belong
Yeah.
and they want to so bad, this is where it can happen.
Yeah.
Really, it's very, very important.
Yeah, it seems like being older, you kind of feel like the world isn't made for you anymore.
Exactly. And or you're not needed as much. You know? And so I think it's really important that the seniors group has a good beginning. I'm excited about it. So our neighbor next door is 91, so she's now my mom. She said, I can be your mom, you know. But she has 5 daughters, but they're a little bit younger than me. But you know, ministry to our neighbors is very, very, very important.
Yeah.
To show that. Some don't want to be close. Some, the garage door goes down the minute they get home. And, you know, that's okay. But we just keep praying as we walk the loop. You never know.
And you keep your heart open and your mind open to...
And you keep your vegetables available.
Yes.
You know, so, yeah.
Yeah, it does really feel like our culture doesn't have a place for older people. Or, I mean, the place that we've invented is the nursing home. But,
Yeah.
It's so unfortunate.
but like, I mean, in a lot of, I mean, it's just kind of a broad generalization, but in a lot of like traditional societies where people wouldn't just move away, it's like you would have the whole family in one spot. And the older individuals would be, you know, a source of wisdom,
Right.
and they'd be taken care of physically by family. And I'm not going to say that was like that everything was perfect there or whatever, but
It's better than sticking your parents in the home.
Yeah. And yet in my family situation, my mom would not come and live with us. She would not go with my sister that's a nurse. She didn't want to interrupt our lives. She'd grown up her whole 89 years there in Leclaire. And she wasn't going to change. And then she got dementia, and you know, we had to do something, so we had to, you know, place her in Bickford. But we found a place where she knew a couple of people from her church, you know, so...
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many different factors that go into that, too. It's not just like a cultural change, because there's the technological change.
Yes,
There's the fact that people are living way longer on average than they used to.
In finances, they just don't go as far anymore.
Finances.
Right.
Like, there's just so many, even the way insurance works, there's so many different factors that I feel like are fueling that part of our culture.
Well, and America being an individualistic culture, everybody's an individual. Then, you know, mom and dad are going to be individual, and the kids, there's just a lot of separation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good
as well.
point. Like you said, like, it's not always the kids sticking the parents in the nursing home or whatever. It's like the parents don't want to encroach on their children.
Right. It's a difficult situation for me to judge another family situation by just not knowing details and just looking at. You can't do that. There's so many facts that are involved that you just got to. That's the other thing that I think at this age, ministering to those that are going through these kind of decision-making things is the friendships are very, very necessary. I have 2 friends right now that are dying of pancreatic cancer. And that's not going to go away as you age. but to help them and just rejoice in that they know the Lord. These two know the Lord. The other thing I think that I didn't think about until right now that helped shape my belief early on was in first grade. My best friend at that time died of a brain tumor.
Oh, wow.
She was in kindergarten. She was a year younger, and she was my mom's best friend's daughter. And in third grade, another little girl died of leukemia. I've had to deal with death.
Yeah.
You know, not just of aunts and uncles or grandparents, but of young
Or
people.
dogs. Or
Yeah, exactly, of animals. That is part of life, and that's another thing as a family, Mom and Dad did not shield us from, that this is, we grew up going to the funeral home and putting our arms around people and, you know, crying with them or whatever. That was just part of growing up.
So we didn't ask, but how did you come to Christ, and when did you come to Christ?
That time when I told you about doing the pirouette, you know, was, I think, my first understanding of the Spirit. But I didn't understand grace. But that God was 3 in 1 at 10. But the whole idea of grace, mercy, forgiveness, you know, all of that intermixed was just, you know, just took time. Of course, when I was a teenager, 16, going to church camp, and I'd been a counselor to, those were just different experiences that were turning points in my faith growth and faith walk. Going to college, yeah, just building experience on experience, and looking at God's word.
Yeah.
You know.
Developing a relationship with God.
And Jesus. In 1980, David and I went to Cursillo. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
no.
It is a basic Christian renewal. And we were part of this, and women went one weekend and men went the other weekend. And it's a series of talks. And that helped put into perspective your walk with Christ. You've heard of Stations of the Cross?
Yeah.
That's part of the Catholic tradition.
Yeah.
But it serves a great purpose in understanding what Christ went through.
Yeah. Yeah, one real quick thing on that. Have you ever heard of the, gosh, I'm blanking on the name of it, the Grotto of the Redemption? And it's like 2 hours east of here. Basically, this guy built all these sculptures out of precious stones and stuff.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I've never.
Part of that is he has like Stations of the Cross.
Yeah.
Like basically like what would it be called? Like a mural or whatever, but like pieces of stone making a picture of like each station of the cross.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there's a ton
I've
more.
not been there.
There's a ton of other stuff there. I think it's actually really amazing. I think everybody should go there.
Okay.
Even if you're a Christian or if you're not
Yeah.
a Christian or if
Yeah.
you're Catholic
He
or
had
not
a reason.
Catholic.
Yeah.
I think it's a really great example of how art can be an aid to worshiping God. Because it's like there was one part. Sorry, I'm butting in here a little bit, but there was one spot where he had one of the Psalms written out in like rocks or whatever, and it was like come. It's from Psalm we sing the psalm at church, Psalm 42, I want to say. Like, come let us worship God together, or something along those lines. And I just remember, like, standing there thinking about that and being like this piece of art here is like an invitation to worship God with everyone else who's experiencing it. And I just, that, to me, that was really powerful, because I hadn't really thought about, like, you know, being in a non-denominational church, religious art is like one of the last things on our minds. But I thought that was just a really cool example of that. Anyways, you were talking about...
What was I talking about?
I forget. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Let's see.
The Stations of the Cross.
Yeah, oh, and
At
that
the
basic
conference.
Conference, and it was very good. And out of that, then prayer groups were formed, and so I was part of a prayer group for 5 years. We met every Wednesday.
Oh, wow.
And it was an 82-year-old lady when we started, a 53, myself, and Elaine was like, I was like 30, and Elaine was 27. But we met for 5 years, and we were prayer partners. That was an extraordinary, that was in PELLA yet, extraordinary experience. To have that, those older women feeding into us with their experiences, but praying as well. Another experience that helped, they helped get me through, was when Sam, our second son, I had a miscarriage, had been miscarriage, and then when Sam was born, he was born 10 weeks early.
Oh, wow.
He was supposed to be born at Christmas, and he was born October 9th.
Wow.
And my waters broke, went into the hospital, stayed, you know, they wanted me for bed rest, but that was the weekend of another Curcio. And David was at the men's retreat.
Oh.
My dad was at the retreat.
Oh, wow.
And literally 90 men were praying for Sam. And he was supposed to they said, well, if he's 2 pounds, 2 pounds, 6 ounces, that's about all. Well, when he was born, the Saturday of that weekend, he was 3 pounds, 6 ounces. And they said, you got your dates wrong. I said, no, I don't. God put that extra pound on, and I'm going to believe that. And he didn't need oxygen. He just needed to be strong. 3 pounds, 6 ounces. And he's 6'7" today.
That's insane for being born.
I took him home at 4 pounds, 10 ounces because
Wow.
I was feeding him around I would go to the hospital and nurse him. But
You got to nurse such a small baby.
I was an experiment because he was so strong. So, yeah,
That
God
is
did
amazing.
amazing things. And you know what? That turned my dad and my mom. My mom went the next weekend. And I found in Mom's writings, that weekend made all the difference in the world to their marriage, too. That both of them experienced a change. So I've been very, very fortunate the last 5 months to go through all of my mom's writings and everything. And I would not advise anybody to just throw their parents' stuff out without looking at it. Look at every piece of paper they've saved. You do not know what kind of notes you're going to find that are precious to you, or how God's planted things in there for you to give to someone else. You just don't know. I've got piles. Oh, this goes to this person. And that'll be a blessing to them. And people ask, why are you going to all that far? I says, but God's laid that on my heart. I'm supposed to give that painting back to that painter's grandson. I was looking up this afternoon. I've located him in Iowa City. That was an original of Russell Brown. And I know his grandson would love it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know it's just stuff, but it's the connection, even these last 5 months, the connection of people that I have had to deal with, from the banker to the funeral director to everybody. I am God's ambassador. I'm his ambassador to show the love of Christ that my mom and dad both believed in. Mm-hmm. And I need to be that conduit to everybody I meet, every one of their neighbors, every one of my cousins, everybody that God's had to put me in front of, the lawyer, the attorney, you name it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like for our kids, they'll just have to look through our old smartphone hard drives or something.
Our Snapchats.
That's true. You don't have any paper.
No, we don't.
Oh, no. Oh, that's too bad. No, you mark your Bibles.
Yeah.
Because my mom's Bible is just, I got all her
We
notes.
read our Bibles on our phones now. We highlight on
I have to go through our U version app.
Yeah, you have to
No.
I still read a paper Bible most of the time, just because I don't want to be distracted when I read my Bible.
Yeah.
See, I've got dates with people's names. And that just, you know, I like, that Psalm 27 came to my mind because when Sam was born, our pastor came to blank Children's Hospital, and he says, I want to give you this verse, Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Because I was afraid. And so I've got October 1982, Pastor Buchelman, Sam's birth.
So how long have you had this Bible?
Since then, at least.
Wow, I could not keep
Yeah.
up with anything that long.
But I've got 3 other Bibles that I
Okay.
use too, so they're all marked up. But that's why this is so important. And now that I have my mom's 2 or 3 Bibles too, and all of her study stuff. My sisters don't understand, but it's okay.
Well, now I gotta go home and make up notes for Gwen.
Well, I've heard of one grandmother taking a Bible and marking it for her granddaughters, each granddaughter for whether it's college or whatever occasion, and they go through and mark. She goes through and marks the Bible according to that child. I have not started that yet. I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely like a very big focus on the now, like with the digital age. It's like people don't really realize that like hard drives go bad and people don't keep old computers because they don't run, and like there's still inscriptions on pieces of rock from like thousands of years ago.
True.
But in 1,000 years, all the stuff that's digital, I mean, probably won't even be there.
Yeah.
Because
It's true.
I mean, even if it gets uploaded to some server online or whatever,
Will it be accessible?
yeah, and that server still has a physical location somewhere, and at some point they're going to decide, we don't need all this old stuff. Let's delete it. It's just a big focus on now.
Yeah. And yesterday, I was able to deliver an envelope of things to my aunt and uncle. Their wedding announcement 66 years ago. You know, it was paper, and you know, you just took it apart, very fragile. And she had tears. She says, I don't even know where this is at home. You know, they're in an assisted living. But your mom saved this. And I said, yep. she saved this and this and this. I was able to give a whole packet to her. But it meant so much to her.
I threw away all of my invitations. But Grandma Ruth has one at her house framed. So when we start to care, we can get it from her. But I threw away every single one.
Who knows,
I'm
I
sure,
don't know.
20, 30, 40 years from now, to see the invitation that Grandma Ruth has will mean a lot.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm sentimental, I guess, at the same time. But I just know the meaning of, it's not the thing. I think it's probably the meaning that somebody cared enough to save that. And it brings back the memory of the joy of that time. I don't know. That's what I just feel like I'm called to do.
Yeah. Well, Joanie, thank you so much for recording this podcast with us, and we can't wait to interview Dave too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
This was a pleasure. You're certainly a wealth of wisdom and knowledge.
Wow. Thank you for letting me share.
Jerry, you don't have any final. Usually I try to end these things, and Jerry's like, wait, I have a few more questions.
Well, honestly, I was thinking, wow, Joseph, you're so chatty tonight.
So,
But I think it's because I'm tired. This baby is wearing me out. So.
maybe, am I the last one for right now?
Well, honestly, maybe.
For a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. Thank you very much for
Yeah.
allowing me to share.
And thank you for taking the time last minute, being so flexible and staying so late.
You know what? I have not had this flexibility until today was my first day, really.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I broke away from tomatoes.
Well, praise God.
Come here.
The rhythm of life.
Yeah, exactly.
Praise God.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you everybody for listening.